He doesn't like my call sign. Who the hell is that guy?
Better than Psycho.
That's right. That's absolutely. And somebody had that call. I'm George Duskin, late of the Navy, late of the Air Force, surrounded by some pretty good men. And the Air Force guy. And
Living clean and eating well.
it shows, it shows. So I want to talk about some things that you talked about a little bit, and I want to approach them from a different angle. And some things that I wish I'd known, things that if I wasn't so damn tired or hungover, I could have figured out at the time, and it would have made a big difference. When I was in Sky Raiders, AD, I presume you're all aviation people know what that is. In late spring of '67, two guys from my air wing got shot down. And one of them, my XO and I, got him out in Haiphong Harbor. But at the same time, on that same strike, a guy named Mike Astosian, who has a ship named after him now, because now we name ships after heroes, and Harvey Milk. Anyway, Mike Astosian got shot down as well. Doing Iron Hand, and we'll hear more about Iron Hand. Iron Hand is where you have missiles that you shoot at their radar when they come up and paint you with their radar. And in the beginning, to warn the guys that you were flying with, and I've just decided for saying, that you're going to be launching something so you don't scare the shit out of your buddies, you go shotgun. You call shotgun, and that means, yeah, he's going to fire a strike now. And for a long time, all you had to do was say shotgun, and the same site was shut down. And we also carried 4-inch rockets. Because when that left the wing, it kind of looked to the guy on the radar on the ground, the bloom of the thing leaving the wing, looked like you shot a Shrike at it. And again, the Shrike goes to the radar antenna, but the control cart's not very far away, and it's got a gazillion pellets in it and blows up, and really, it's not pretty. So you shoot the 4-inch rocket, because Shrike are kind of hard to find, and they're expensive. And so you do that, they shut down. And then after a while, nothing shut them down. It was like stepping out in the street in the old days with a gun, you're gonna have it out in the street. He's gonna shoot at you, you're gonna shoot at him. See how this works out. But the good news is that I could jink out of the way of his missile. He couldn't jink his little cart out of the way of my missile. I win, In fact, on a strike to I found Hanoi one day, the photo guy says, I'm not throwing rocks at photo guys because he was an RA-5 guy. He says, we had to strike, and it's pretty close to downtown, and he goes, I'm running a little late, I'll be there in 3 minutes. Well, I'm the lead Iron Hand, so I go in, me and my wingman go in, the strike does their thing, they haul ass, and we're supposed to follow them out. But now I'm waiting 3 minutes for this guy to show up. Well, that's a lifetime at Hanoi, Oh my God. Because we're in A7As, we're slow already, we're starting to lose altitude. Poof, he goes by doing 1,500 knots if he's doing one. I'm better waiting for him. But he got the picture of my SAM site. Remember I told you all the pellets? Well, if they hit a missile on the rails, it cooks it off, and they start squirting around on the ground, and it's, that made it worth it. So, Mike Astosian, Iron Hand guy, gets shot down. We go up, we can't find him. But I'm looking around Haiphong Harbor, the Little Red River where they have their port facility. They got like a 3-ship quay. It's not even a pier. It's like pilings along the shoreline. And they got 3 ships tied up in there. And they got 80 ships waiting to get in. So the harbor is full. And I remember, I was still in it, and I remember looking at it going, if we mined this place, we could probably shut them down. No, I was an ensign, so what the hell do I know? Well, we got to do it in '72, and sure enough, it shut them down. 3 jackasses were still in port. I guess they didn't believe it. Flashed, the mines went in the water. They stayed there for the duration. And at night, they had the little strings of lights. You know, for a show in port, they got the little lights lit up. Well, they lit them up, so you could always find Haiphong. Hey, look for the lights. There they are. Everything else black on the inside of a cow. So we shut that down. So the slopeheads go, we'll go to this little cove, semi-cove, further down the coast. And I remember looking at it thinking, what the hell did they pick that place for? Because they'd anchor a couple of merchant ships there and offload the supplies. And it was only like 100 miles north of the DMZ. And they'd offload, and you knew they were offloading supplies because you'd take a cluster bomb and chuck it into the beautiful palm trees along the shoreline. It was really a nice, pretty beach. And you get secondary explosions out of it. Well, let's see, that's not somebody's watermelon growing and all, but that's the wind stuff. So I'm thinking to myself later, I said, wait a minute, we mined Haiphong Harbor, the big deal, the world to see. We stand up and we're gonna mine this place. 2 lousy ships and the heavies that want to be say, we want you to watch them 24 hours a day. Make sure they don't float anything ashore. Well, suggestion, float. Okay, I mean, huge waste of resources. And I never did see it, but I did notice that the hatches on those ships were open, the cargo hatches were open. Some years before, the USS Oriskany had a mishap with a parachute flare. And the kid panicked with a parachute flare. He tripped it inadvertently while they were loading, rearming the ship. Chucked it into the flare locker and dogged the door down. You know that? No. It almost burned through the bottom of the ship. They almost lost the ship over there. I dropped one low over the water one time. It was burning underwater. I said, these things are nasty. I remember looking at that ship. It was hatch open. You know? If I can get a flare down that hatch, I'll burn that son of a bitch to the water line. Well, there's weaponry involved here. You got to establish some parameters, so I come in at the same point every time at the same speed, and then I varied my pickle distance because the thing would fall free for a while, and then it would light off and then it would float down this little parachute. And one time I put one in the water from here to the front door. Holy cow. The very next night, kick off a flare, and the shore batteries are blowing the shit out of it. And I'm thinking, what the hell? We're over here, what are you shooting? We're afraid of the flares. I win, you know. You say to yourself, wait a minute, we mine the big harbor, we get this little pea-ant operation here, and we don't shut it down. What's up with that? Shows you the quality of thinking at the upper echelons there. I think we all understand that. So the Christmas of '72 event that he's talking about, the next big, really big thing that happened over there. And in fact, I think you'd take a poll of anybody who was ever there. Everybody remembers the Christmas of '72 event. Everybody was involved. We were tasked to iron hand for the B-52s. I frankly had never had any interaction with the Air Force, so I had no idea what to expect. Turns out that their leadership was dumber than ours, which is, you know, reaching for the sky. So I'm leading this section on the second go, the first night. And I counted in the space of maybe 45 minutes on station, I counted 80 SAMs in the air. That's a lot of SAMs. And it could have been more because I got busy and I didn't really, you know, I wasn't making tick marks. I was kind of giving it a casual count.
You can't count that high.
No, another issue. But I said, boom, up here, and you see what's looks like fire, and then guard would get busy, and somebody go, Orange 3, come up out of it. Don't call him, man, he's the flaming wreckage. A little aside, you know, I had this gear in the airplane that's supposed to point out the SAM site to him, point out his radar dish, and I'm getting nothing. I got nothing to shoot at. But I know the SAMs are going up there because, you know, boom, 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 65,000, boom, 30,000, that's the flaming wreckage guy. How the hell are they guiding these things? They were shooting them like a rifle. And they were, because the Air Force made the problem difficult
It
for
was
them.
a full moon.
Beyond that, they came from Guam or wherever the hell they came. They come along south of Hainan Island, kind of make a right turn up the Gulf of Tonkin, hit Haiphong, make a left turn to Hanoi. It's a real graphic track, and they'd all fly to 3, and they'd all do it at a specific interval, because that's the way we do things. You know, the Homers are going, hey, count 'em. We can get that guy. And they did, by going, oh, boom, 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 got it. Oh man, that's really depressing. So I asked the B-52 guy one time, I said, how the hell did you get away from those sands? Because I know, first of all, they got jamming gear on B-52 that, you know, if they pointed at you on the ground, it's going to alter your genes. And this is, you know, that's why I wouldn't get anything. They jammed it completely. I said, well, and still they're coming. I said, how do you get away from them? Oh, we do this. Well, I said, shit, that's what we do. Perfect, it works. So, after a couple days of this, we had a day Alpha to Hanoi. And I'm here to tell you, it was like working for Southwest going to Dallas. There was nothing going on. Not a shot, not a tweet. We had beat them into the ground. You don't count 80 SAMs on a cycle and think they have a reserve somewhere. They're out, man. They're out of bullets. Wow. Some years later, we all left. We thought we'd won the damn thing. We did. Before we got home, they gave it away, but that's another story. And to verify what I say about we won the thing, I was the ops officer of the A7 RAG at Cecil Field. That's the Clouded Training Squadron. And the POWs were now returning to the fleet, including our billet, John McCain. And everything you ever heard about it was probably a lie. He was worse than that. I don't know, maybe you don't understand what I mean. But what a jackass.
Don't sugarcoat.
So,
Did you get that?
well, I can really tell you if you want to know. So we're at happy hour one night at our local bar.
Beer.
And there's a cluster. You may have been there. I know Lois was. And we're talking about the Christmas of 17. One of the ex-POWs who'd been a junior guy is there. And he pipes up and says, oh, we knew you were beating them, meaning the POWs. Well, how'd you know that? You know, he's locked away in a cell. He said, they started feeding us. And we gave it away before we got home. Unbelievable. Anyway, the flying ace that flew in the ground, the last one.
Yep. Grosstein.
Other things I wish I knew at the time, but we learned too late. We had the first one was Mike Schuster hits a tree. And you're right. An aircraft carrier is an industrial plant, and to smell a Christmas tree on an industrial plant is, you know, like seeing a bird fly through. What the hell was that? Then the flying ace disappears. I'm in the ready room and say, hey, we need somebody to go look for flying ace, whatever the number was. Was that 500? You got it right there.
I think so.
So, okay, I'm up to the roof. Your airplane spot in front of the island. I'm airborne in 5 minutes. Heading up there. The E2 guy, what are you doing? I was taking pictures. The E2 guy, and by the way, talk about a waste of gasoline. E2. Give a non-pilot a microphone, that's the end of the free. So, the E2 guys, he's starting to give me guidance on how he thinks my rest cap ought to go. And I said, something to the effect, I'll clean it up. Something to the effect that you fly your E2 and I'll fly my A7. So I'm streaking up there, really a bright moon, a low but solid flight cloud deck. I'm guessing the tops were 1,000 feet. So I zip under it, cross-check all my instruments. You know, pressure altitude reads the same as the radar altimeter, because I'm going to turn down the lights in the cockpit now. The radar altimeter light is going to go, lighting is going to go away. So So now I'm gonna be relying, but I've just double checked that baby, so we're good. I streak in there as fast as that A will go, which is not very fast. In fact, they're used to shooting at A6s, and they're at least 100 knots faster than I was. All the tracers are going in the front, you know, and that just, yeah. Go behind, okay, you know, you gotta watch them.
Change
Oh,
up.
God.
Yeah.
So I go streaking in about 25 miles, trying to see if I can see a fire, raise them on the radio, nothing. And finally, I mean, I'm really starting to hold my ass here. And I'm like, hey, good idea to get back out over the water. So I turn around, I'm smoking out there. And by now the cloud deck is thinned out and it's just bright moonlight. So I can see pretty well. And I'm down there, you know, flying. My pupils are probably that big. I'm an owl tonight, and I'm smoking out here. Little hoochies are going by, and they're looking pretty close, but I'm not worried about that because I ain't hitting them. I get out of the water and I go, that moon streak looks a little close. So I turn up my other auxiliary cockpit lights, and the radio altimeter comes on and says 75 feet. I'm still showing 200 on the pressure altimeter. Whoa. The lesson learned is we lost one has sustained damage, and I scared the pee-pee out of myself, all for that concept that pressure altitude changes at night when the cloud deck changes. But by then it was the end of the war, so we wouldn't need that knowledge. Anyway, so they started feeding us. Remember that.
Amen.